Give the people what they want, eh? And no, I'm not talking about England being in a semi-final of a competition again. I'm talking about me and Dave being back together again. How are you, Dave? You good?
Yeah, good mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's good to be back. Obviously, I got to miss the last one out, so didn't even get a chance to talk about England's wonderful victory over Germany. And here we are with another one to talk about. It is really happening, isn't it? England are flying. So a 4-0 win against Ukraine in their quarterfinal game means that they will face Denmark, who quietly went about their business, really, and beat Czech Republic 2-1. On the other side of the tie, we have Italy against Spain as Italy continue to storm through the tournament, this time knocking Belgium out. And Spain get by on some pretty dreadful penalties against Switzerland, really. But there's only one place to start, isn't there, Dave? I've got one question and one question only for you, Dave. Is it well and truly coming home?
It's never been home. We've never won the Euros before. So.
Right, is it finding a new home?
I mean, it's looking good. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think a lot of people are still sceptical. Obviously, the past being let down by England, but I mean, it's looking promising. It's looking better than it ever has been, really. To be honest, for as long as I've been in England fan.
Definitely.
100%. I think the Ukraine performance, kind of put a marker down. I feel like as though we kind of definitely backed up that Germany performance. I think we were looking for some more, more clinical nature, and we got that within the performance. We had goals that, there was chances created, and we looked comfortable. We played really well. I feel like we're almost. I hope we're not going to become spoiled as England fans. I mean, I'm hoping if when we do come to win it, we're not going to kind of come to expect to win, more and more and more. Because I think it's good to kind of, cherish these tournaments, and I think if we get to the final, I think that'll definitely be, if you said at the start of the competition, if we get to the final, that would be a big step. But you don't want to get to the final and lose it. So we're looking all the way now.
Yeah, and you're right when you talk about being spoiled. It's funny because you and I are of a similar enough generation, even though you're much, much older than me, where we can both say that we've grown up really being pretty disappointed by England. The first tournament I really remember was 2002, and that was a letdown. 2004, certainly a letdown. Should have done much better. 2006, heartbreaking, really. Germany completely took it out of us. And then since then, it's been even worse. And Southgate really has installed a new hope in the England national team. There are fans of a certain age. I mean, the kids that I teach, they're of an age where they only really have seen England get to semi-finals of competitions. That's ridiculous. I can't believe that. The semi-final of the World Cup seemed to flatter England a little bit, but this one just doesn't, does it, Dave? We feel like we deserve to be there on this occasion. Let me just throw a couple of things at you quickly that I noticed from this game. England now hold the record for the most consecutive clean sheets in a European competition from first game to where they are now. Jordan Pickford holds the record for the most clean sheets kept in a European Championship, along with Iker Casillas, which is incredible. The last time England scored 4 goals in a major tournament knockout game was the final in '66. Harry Kane now is only 1 goal behind Gary Lineker as England's top scorer in knockout competitions. And also, he's the first player to have ever scored 2 goals in a knockout game at the Euros for England. England have now kept 7 clean sheets on the bounce as well. That's also a national team record. What's going on, Dave? What's going right? I don't even know where to start here.
I think a lot of those records obviously are also kind of, it's new ground for us, isn't it? Really, it shows how poor we've been in previous tournaments.
Just you to make it negative.
How far we're coming. So I think a big positive is Harry Kane is looking like more his old self now. Obviously, I know there were calls for him to be locked before the gym, but it's looking like he's he's definitely full of confidence, which is a bit good for us.
Definitely. Before you move on from that, let's talk about Harry Kane quickly, because like you say, there was a lot of talk about Harry Kane maybe being dropped. I don't think that was ever serious talk. I don't think Southgate would have ever considered it. I think it's just one of those things that was doing the rounds on social media rather than being a genuine conversation. But what seems to have changed for you in Kane's game? He got the goal against Germany. He now has another 2. He's all of a sudden looking like one of the favourites for the Golden Boot. All of us, and that didn't seem likely after the group stage, did it? So what's changed for his game in the last 2 games, do you think?
I feel like he just needed to get off the mark. It was almost waiting for him to get that goal, which we kind of expected to come, against some of the lesser teams in the group stage. It just didn't happen for him. We didn't create enough chances. It wasn't all down to Kane, to be honest. It was enough scraps for a lot. So it's almost, it definitely felt like it was a sigh of relief, especially when he scored against Germany. That goal, like it looked like relief more than obviously he scored against Germany. It looked like he was weights off his shoulder.
Definitely.
When he scored that goal.
I think the other thing is with Kane, and we noticed it in the group stage massively, he's just in more positive positions now. If you look, he didn't have a shot on target in the group stage, I don't think. And half the reason that was he was dropping very deep. He looked very leggy. He didn't particularly look fit. So picking up the ball in the middle of the park was never going to put him in the areas that you want Harry Kane in. And look what's happened. On a couple of occasions now, he's got towards the 6-yard box, and we know how lethal he is there. I mean, his first goal was lovely. Sterling's ball was fantastic. He timed that through ball so well, and the little run that came before it as well. It was really the best I think we've seen of Sterling for a really long time, particularly this season. But it's something we know he's capable of. But I thought the finish that Kane applied was brilliant. It was exactly how it needed to be hit for it to go in, really. And that instinct seemed back. He seemed to be switched on. Maybe it was because it was early in the game and he was still fresh. I'm not sure, but I think you're right. I think the confidence of just getting that first goal, it showed in him, didn't it? We saw it when he took that volley on. And if that had gone in and he got a hat-trick, then he would have deserved it, really, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I think that ball from Sterling was almost too good. He almost kind of didn't get to that ball because it was, he sort of half anticipated it and then obviously clutched onto it at the last. And it was a predatory finish, wasn't it? But yeah, I feel as though we can only hope for more from him now. I think he does set those standards for himself as well. He knows, he's capable of being, the best player in that team. So we need him to perform now the next couple of games, and hopefully.
Definitely.
I don't want to. I don't want to jinx it, but it's looking good. And if we get to the final, that'll be unbelievable.
Yeah.
To experience England being in the final, it'd be a very surreal experience. But, it'll bring the country together like it has, these last couple of major competitions.
Well, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's tough to not get carried away because at the end of the day, if you want to win the tournament, we've still got 2 more games to play. Denmark are in the semi-finals for a reason. They've obviously done what they needed to do to get there. And on the other side of the draw, I think a lot of people would say that Italy have been the best team in the tournament. I think England have a good argument for that too. And Spain, I think, have flattered to deceive at times, but have got results when they needed to. And we know that they've got pedigree in this tournament from recent history. So it is easy to look at this Ukraine result and the Germany result and think there's a lot of hope here, but there's still a job to be done. Now, what gives me more confidence is that seems to be how Southgate's going about it, just getting a job done. And this was nice to see us express ourselves and get some goals. We scored at the right times in the game, definitely. We got the early goal in the first half and the second, and that killed the game off, really. But more than anything, they're organised. I've not seen an England team this organised for a really long time. And we can hold our hands up and say we've been guilty of it at times, questioning some of Southgate's decisions, questioning why he was selecting certain players, overlooking others, selecting certain formations. But he just seems to get it right every time. He's keeping the squad fresh. He's keeping the spirit there. Harry Maguire came in after being injured, and we've maintained that clean sheet record that he wasn't part of for the first 2 games. He's changed to a back 5 in the last game and kept the clean sheet, went back to the back 4 and did it again. So what isn't the organisation then, Dave, that seems to be working for you? That back line seems to be really coherent, doesn't it? What do you think of the back line for England at this tournament?
I just feel as though the balance is right. I don't feel as though he wants to change it too much. Obviously, I know he made, a couple of changes for the Ukraine game, but I felt as though he anticipated we'd have a lot more of the ball, which we did, especially in the second half. As soon as we scored that second goal, it was very much a one-way traffic and more of a case of kind of what we could create, how clinical we were going to be. In terms of obviously the defence, I feel as though it's been really solid. Obviously, like as you say, we've played 2 systems and we've looked comfortable with either. So there's obviously been a lot of work done on that in the background, and obviously in training and working with the system. But I feel as though I think the set midfield that we've got has probably helped a lot. We've been in tournaments in the past, and we don't really know what our best team is, or what our those kind of pivotal positions, central midfield. We don't even know who we need to play or what works best, and it feels as though Rice and Phillips works well. Obviously, the force come from them both, still young players as well. So I feel as though there's an idea of what he knows. I think he knows what he needs to do to get a result, and I don't actually think he knew what his best team was in the previous major competition at the World Cup. It seemed like he was kind of toying about with what worked, and he missed players here and there as well. Obviously, we talk about midfield just now. He lacked options, so I feel as though he's got obviously all the players on board with what he wants and how they want to play, and it's looking promising. We're not conceding many chances either.
No.
How many shots teams are actually on? They're actually kind of limited to very little. So that's also, big credit goes to the manager and the team.
And on that, there's a couple of other people that I think deserve a bit of credit. I think, first of all, Jordan Pickford, of course. I think a lot of people would have questioned whether he would even be England's number 1 this summer. There was big talk about that. He had an inconsistent season with Everton, I think is a good way of putting it. And if Pope had been fit, it would have added to the conversation. Obviously, Dean Henderson came into the United team towards the end of the season. There was a lot of talk about whether he might start. But Pickford, he doesn't seem to let England down. Even in this game, he had one small wobble where he kind of sliced the ball. But even in that, his positioning was brilliant. And he's making saves when he needs to. And like you say, we're not conceding many chances, but he's staying alert to the times when we do. There was a time in the first half where Ukraine went through on goal and were 1-on-1, and Pickford made the save he needed to make. And that's what you would ask from your goalkeeper. I think he's been outstanding. But the other person that I really want to highlight, and I'm sure you'll have some time to talk about, and we've probably talked about him already, but I just think he deserves praise again, is Luke Shaw. Now, to me, I think it's really interesting. It seemed that in pre-season and early last season, Man United made the decision to let Luke Shaw start taking more set pieces. Now, for me, it seemed that was going to be because they thought Alex Telles was going to come in, and they wanted to get used to their left back being their corner taker to set up for that system. Then Shaw just played so well that he kept his place. And actually his delivery, his set piece delivery, has been fantastic. It's no coincidence to me that he found Maguire for the second goal, for example. But all round, Shaw's physicality, his aggression, his pace, his delivery, his work rate off the ball and the way that he presses, to me, he's been England's best player this tournament. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. And we saw it in the Germany game, how well he linked up with Grealish when he came on. He linked up incredibly well with Sterling in this game. And he's just been so efficient. So this is a player that we will question whether he would start or whether it would be Chilwell for a while. And a couple of years ago, he looked so far from that England team. If you remember at the World Cup, it was Danny Rose and Ashley Young competing for left back. Now, Luke Shaw was someone with so much promise, so much talent. obviously had a turbulent time under Mourinho and he's had some injuries. But does this feel like redemption for you for Luke Shaw this tournament? Do you feel like he's really living up to the potential that we always thought he had when United paid that big money for him?
I think it's a lot of things have come together for him, really. In terms of as a player, he's matured, it seems. I think it's also he's had a realization of actually how good he can be. And as you were talking about the pieces and his delivery, this has really come on. Evidently, especially kind of noticed it very early on in the season. It's come on leaps and bounds, and I don't know if that's just kind of the competition that Alex Telles has brought in to the team. It's kind of seen him doing, a lot more because he's an attacking fullback, Telles, and he can. It's kind of perhaps spurred him on and given that kind of kick up the backside that probably he needs. He feels like he should be offering more, and why not? Like, we've seen what he's capable of, in these last few games, and his delivery is brilliant. Obviously, second top of assists, isn't he, in the tournament as well?
Which is amazing for a left back.
Absolutely, yeah. It's never been a case of is he good enough for it. It's been when's it going to come together? Yeah, and I feel like that is the case with a lot of players sometimes, and sometimes the penny drops and sometimes it doesn't. And it was a case of was he going to be able to bring that form into the England side that he's been showing for Man United all season, and he's more than shown that.
Well, you say that he's benefited from the competition of Telles. I wonder if the same can be said at England, because obviously Ben Chilwell has just won the Champions League, and Kieran Trippier has been favoured to play at left back as well with Southgate at times. So it's interesting to me that Shaw has kind of risen to the occasion when he was put in, and he's cemented that place now, hasn't he? You can't see him not playing any other games for England in this tournament unless there was an injury, for example. But he looks fantastic to me, and I think he does deserve a lot of praise. The other player that I think we should focus on quickly is Raheem Sterling. I think we both would have said that he was kind of flattering to deceive at times in the group stages. But again, he's producing the goods, isn't he? He's come to life in the last two games, really. And I think he has a big claim for being England's most important player at this point as well. So what did you think of Sterling's performance in this game?
Yeah, again, I think we mentioned it actually in the previous game. He kind of, what Shaw allows Sterling to do is to pick those positions up in the central position, kind of be floating in the field, and he's able to occupy those positions as he showed against Germany, obviously scoring the goal. It was Shaw obviously delivering the cross, and Sterling getting in those positions. And I feel as though that's something that was missing in the first few games. We didn't have those players getting into those positions. So that's always encouraging to see. I feel as though, like you say, Sterling, we were kind of toing and froing whether we thought that was the right move to put him in the starting 11. But he's always a threat. That's the thing with Sterling. I feel as though he gets into those positions that really we've gone on.
Yeah. No, you still got you.
To get into those positions, obviously, that it makes him such a threat to any team. Really, he's got that pace to get in behind teams. As we have seen, he's been supply actually on this occasion to Kane on the first, which was was vital to kind of just get an early goal and settle the team down.
I think as well, we've always known Sterling has that capability, and he's just hit form at the right time. In a tournament, that's what you want. When you get to the knockout stages, you need your players to step up, and he seems to be relishing the opportunity. Sterling is someone who's had a lot of press and not always positive, but he's never seemed to shy away from it. He's always managed to step up, so I'm glad to see him having a good tournament. I think the other person worth mentioning is Man United's latest acquisition, although not 100% confirmed yet, still a few things to iron out there. Looks pretty much certain, doesn't it? Both clubs have talked about the fact they've reached an agreement. Jadon Sancho made his first full start of the tournament, got the most minutes we've seen him have yet. Obviously, Bukayo Saka was out injured, and he seems to have become Southgate's favourite on that right-hand side. Do you think Sancho laid a good claim to that spot for the next game, though?
I thought it was a solid performance for him. We know he's capable of a lot more than what he showed in that game, in my opinion. So there was glimpses of it.
Yeah, agreed.
But he played in moments. Obviously, had that shot. I think Shaw dragged it back. I think it was in the first half, and obviously he had that shot against keeper. And I think there was a couple of moments
In the middle,
where
yeah.
we just had a couple of give and goes. And I think that's the thing with Sancho. He's kind of like it's full power with him. He's relentless in his play. He's so quick with the ball and his interplay. Absolutely brilliant, and he's definitely got a lot more to show for England. I think it was a promising display, but I also feel like I've mentioned, I feel like it was moments. It wasn't a constant influence. I don't think it was a constant influencer in the felt like it because the majority of our play came down that left flank.
Well, it's tense times. Back at Wembley on Wednesday night against Denmark. What are you seeing for England in that game? Do you think that this is something that we should be expecting a win? Do you think Southgate will stick to the same team, same system? What are you thinking you'll see on Wednesday night, though?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I feel as though it might be a really difficult game.
It will.
Denmark are a well-organised unit. Obviously got threats. They've got good players in there. I think it's Damsgaard who's quite impressed me for them. And Dolberg. Dolberg's always been a name that's been touted around.
Yeah.
There's a promising striker. He's not quite been able to put it together, but he's showed glimpses of it in this tournament. They've got players to hurt us. It's just we've just got to stay compact and kind of do what we've been doing. And
yeah, definitely.
As a team, we're finding a way to win at the moment. And,
I'm not even sure that you'd say it's finding a way to win. I think they're controlling it. I think they're setting the agenda and they're saying this is how we're going to win this game. It seemed like we've had a clear plan in pretty much every game we've played, bar the Scotland game, which really Scotland took the game to us more than we would have liked. Now, Denmark will try and do the same. Denmark will try and control the game where they can too. They're organised well, and they're obviously riding the high of some great form in an emotional time, and they deserve to be where they are. So when you say you think it's going to be a difficult game, yeah, it will. It's the semi-final of a competition, and that's the kind of difficult games that Southgate will make his name in. So far, we haven't been able to get past that stage, but hopefully this time we can. I think I'll be interested to see if he keeps the same lineup. He's done a good job at keeping everyone fresh so far. Mason Mount came back in for this game after having 10 days out, obviously. Sancho started for the first time. Saka's not played. Foden's not played for the last 2 games at all. Not featured for a single minute, has he? But then you got to have the rotation as well in this game of getting some other players off earlier on. I think he brought on Bellingham. He brought on Calvert-Lewin. I think, did Rashford come on as well? I think Rashford might have come on. So they're rotating the squad really well. So you'd like to think that England have got a pretty good deck to select from in the next game. What about the starting 11? Would you change anything from the team that beat Ukraine?
I wouldn't play a back 3. I don't think we can. I feel like we can't afford to pay them too much respect. Okay, they've done brilliantly to get this far in the tournament, but let's remember how good a team we actually are and the caliber of players that we actually have. We need to continue this, this nature of the clinical elements of our game, and especially in the previous one. I think it's about kind of getting an early goal potentially if we can, and looking to settle the team and settle the nerves. And the encouraging thing is that we've not really looked nervy in so far in the competition.
No. Well, we haven't had to. That's the only thing that worries me. I don't want to see if England can go through the whole tournament without conceding a goal, bar a 0-0 draw and a loss on penalties, you win the tournament then. So I would love to see that happen, but I'll be interested to see how England do react if they go a goal down or if they concede even, because it makes me kind of nervous that we've not seen that side. If Muller scored, for example, how do England bounce back from that moment? We could be talking about a completely different tournament then for us. So hopefully, like you say, they can get an earlier goal and settle them. We don't have to find out how they deal with nerves, because I think they were nervous against Scotland. It was a derby. and they didn't seem to really play themselves into it. The difference was when it came to the Germany game, it's more high risk because you're in knockout football. You kind of have to go for it. So I'll be interested to see whether they go for that with Denmark. I think for me, the only change I'd consider making, I'm going to say an obvious one. I'd look to bring Jack in. I don't think Mason Mount particularly offered that much in this game. However, did he need to? I think Sterling was popping up in that number 10 role at times as well. But if you were going to do that and rotate Sterling and your number 10 onto the left wing, to me, that's a more natural fit for Grealish. So I'd like to see him get the game that he needed. I think Southgate approached him straight away at full time and spoke to him. And a lot of people have made a lot about those comments. And I wonder what Southgate was saying to him. You're going to play in the next game or what? So be interested to see whether he can break into the starting 11. But other than that, I think much of the same, really. Different opponent, but England should take the game the way they want to.
Yeah, I agree what we're saying there about Mount. I think he was kind of went under the radar a little bit in that game. There was a shot that he had that was a powerful shot, but it was straight at the keeper. But I don't really remember kind of him having too many moments.
No.
I think the one thing, obviously, that Southgate likes is that he's very much kind of like 7 out of 10 in pretty much every degree.
He's a good player, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel as though he probably thinks that he offers more to the team defensively than what Grealish does. But I mean, do I think that he'll start Grealish? I can see why he's saying. I personally, I'd be very surprised if he started.
Really? Yeah, it's sad. But there we go. Harry Maguire as well, popping up with a goal. It's always nice to see Slabhead in action. And he managed to get a goal in the quarterfinal of a World Cup and the Euros now. Pretty cool for his career. And just so no Liverpool fans say that I'm biased, Jordan Henderson broke the record for the longest amount of time between their first cap and their first goal for England. It took him 66 games to finally score. Previously held by Sol Campbell, Jordan Henderson is not a defender. He's just not a very good footballer. Anyway, let's talk about the other games really quickly. I don't think there's too much to talk about with Spain, Switzerland, other than a dreadful penalty shootout where Switzerland really gave the game to Spain. Considering they beat France on penalties with 5 scored in the last round, this was a disappointing display and Spain really got away with one. So they are through to the semi-final where they will face Italy. Now, one very clever, handsome man that features on this podcast said at the start, and I quote, "Italy will win this tournament." And you laughed at him. Mike laughed at him. And now he's still smiling. What do you think of Italy, Dave? Do you think that they're England's biggest threat?
I feel, as a team, I feel like the only thing I feel like I've mentioned to you before is the striker. I think Immobile is kind of been in and out, really, in and out of games and not quite been able to, finish some of those chances. And now there's Belotti. Belotti's not really had an impact when he's coming on. So that's the only thing that's missing, really. I feel like they're just missing a real quality striker. They've got everything in the team.
So
they're a real good unit. Obviously, you can see as a team, they're so strong as a unit. They know each other's roles. They press well. The high energy. It's kind of the complete opposite to what we've been used to from Italy for so long.
Well, yeah, definitely.
So it's really refreshing to see. I feel as though they were, miles better than Belgium in that game. I think Belgium had a couple of opportunities early on. Donnarumma made a couple of really good saves early on, just before Italy scored. And obviously Lukaku was being Lukaku, missed that chance. I think that was the only chance they had, actually. Around the 60th minute when De Bruyne played that pass into him. That was the chance really to get the pass.
Oh, and it cost Venezuela. Yeah.
He couldn't put it away. But beyond that, the Belgium were quite just, I just thought they were underwhelming. It didn't look like they were going to score. I didn't feel like they were going to score.
I'm interested.
Thought that Italy looked comfortable.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear you say that because I actually really, really enjoyed this game. I thought this was one of my favourite games of the tournament, actually, because I thought we saw a really interesting display of two teams kind of going at each other and trying to counter each other's styles at times. And I thought it was really effective. I think Lukaku probably should have done better with the chance that you're discussing. Obviously, Spinazzola makes a great block. He gets in the right position. And he's going to be a huge miss for Italy going forward because he has had a fantastic tournament and has offered them so much energy on that left-hand side and freed up so much space for Insigne to do what Insigne does. That frustrated me almost to watch. Insigne scoring that goal, yeah, it's a beautiful finish. It's a great goal. That's what Insigne does. So why Alderweireld has stood so far off him and let him have that space to do that? He must have been thinking, thank you very much, sir. This is me putting us in the semi-finals, because that was where you saw the old legs of the Belgian defence, where really they're past their best, because you close that space down. You do not allow that shot, particularly from a player like that. And it was moments like that that I think decided the game. Belgium obviously got the penalty, and some people might say that was soft. I think the Belgian forward makes the most of it. However, you do see quite a clear contact. He does kind of push into him. You see the motion go, and that's always going to be given. So that was interesting to get them back into the game. But Barella's goal was lovely. Barella's goal, I thought, was fantastic. He hit that really well, moved the ball really well. And I think that Italy midfield just looks so dangerous. And it's funny going into an Italy-Spain game and thinking that Spain's midfield need to be careful not to get dominated, because that's what we've known Spain for so long, being the one that does that to teams. But can you see Spain upsetting this Italy side?
If they defended how they did against Croatia, then I can't see it.
No.
I think that's the main difference between two teams. You know, also Italy have got a pack with experience, you know, especially in that back line. And I just feel as though they've got too much quality for them. You know, it's a one-off game. Anything can happen at the end of the day, but Italy favourites.
You are right. It is a one-off game and anything can happen, but I feel like it's already obvious what's going to happen, because you talk about Italy's problem maybe being Immobile, but Spain are flattered with the goals that they've scored, really. I mean, another own goal in this game, that seems to keep happening for Spain. Morata clearly doesn't look like he's got his shooting boots on for 89% of the time. I feel like Chiellini and Bonucci and Donnarumma deal with that all day. I mean, I'll probably be made to eat my words, and tomorrow Spain will probably win 4-0. But to me, I think this is a foregone conclusion. I would actually say that this tie is more one-sided than England's in many ways. And I think we can expect to see Italy in the final. And hopefully we'll see England join them. So England obviously played Denmark, who also got their win 2-1 against Czech Republic. I think Czech Republic surprised a lot of people, didn't they, Dave? I think they actually had a decent tournament and they seemed very efficient. Do you think that they're hard done by with this result, or do you think Denmark deserved the win?
They huffed and puffed. Obviously, they got that goal back and they just didn't have enough. And in the end, it was very much the same with Belgium. I felt as though, you know, there was plenty of endeavour there. You know, you can't fault the effort, and there was just a lack of kind of quality, I think, in the final third for them. Obviously, Patrick Schick's had a brilliant tournament. You know, he's done a lot for his you know. I can see a few teams looking in the transfer market. But I feel, they just lacked that little bit of quality that kind of stopped them from potentially getting the goals that they needed. We saw even against England, to be honest, they weren't pushovers at all. They actually played quite well against. So, you know, they can definitely be proud of themselves for how far they've got. So, you know, it's promising times, and they've got a few quite promising young players coming through.
Definitely.
The Czechs out. So there's plenty for them to look forward to, and hopefully we see them to go far in the next tournament as well.
Definitely. So before we move on quickly, it's getting to that stage now. I've got to ask you again then. Let's go for predictions. So, Italy, Spain, what are you saying? You saying Italy are going to come out on the winners on that?
I think it'll be 2-1 Italy.
I think I can see that. I think more like 2-0. I can't see Spain scoring personally, but I think we both agree Italy are going to go through that one, right?
How lucky they've been with some goals in this tournament. So it wouldn't surprise you.
Maybe.
A little jammy goal here or there.
And then let's make ourselves look really foolish on Wednesday when we have our next podcast crying, saying Southgate out and everything's gone horribly wrong. Let's talk about how we predict England are going to win now, I imagine. What's your prediction for the England-Denmark game?
I'm going to say 3-1. I don't think we will keep this run of clean sheet going. So we're going to find an undoing somewhere along the line. It's better to be here rather than in the final. So I feel we've got too much up front for them. So there's too much quality in that attack, and the thing is, it only takes a moment or two for us to decide a game now with the amount of talent that we've got in that team. So I feel like I definitely admire what Denmark have done this one. I feel like they really express themselves as a team. That's been really easy on the eye to watch. So I just think that we'll just have too much form in the end. 3-1 for me.
Yeah, I think England are going to walk that one, to be honest. But when I say walk it, I mean walk around the pitch, holding onto the ball for as long as possible after getting an early 1-0 and then holding on to that result just to get us through. So, yeah, I'm going 1-0. I think we're going to be more conservative than that. So that leaves us with England and Italy in the final. Who are you predicting as our overall winner, Dave?
I don't want to say.
Go on, say it. Dare you. Say it. Go on.
You've got to say England, haven't you? You've got to go for England. We can't go against them. They've backed them this far now, all the way to the end, and let's hope. All we can do is keep believing and hoping, that we're going to do it. One of these days we will. Hopefully we live to see that day.
So inevitably now, Spain are going to beat Denmark in the final, right? Okay, before we close, just a couple of things that I wanted to mention to you quickly. It looks like Achraf Hakimi is joining PSG today for 70 million. That will join Sergio Ramos on a free, Donnarumma on a free. Also talk of Theo Hernandez joining from AC Milan at left back. So we can enjoy a very expensive and experienced defence getting to the quarterfinals of the Champions League and then bowing out to someone bigger than them next season, right? What do you think? Is this PSG investing smart? They've already brought one Alderman in as well. Do they seem like this might finally be the year they crack that European curse?
Well, there's rumours that they're speaking to Pogba.
We'll
see what happens with that. But to be honest, as a United fan, I wouldn't be sad to see the back of him. He's a brilliant player, but on his day, and his day doesn't come along often enough. And we've kind of seen his naiveties in this tournament. Against Switzerland, he was at fault for their third goal, and it's not the first time.
Oh, I think that's harsh. I think that's really harsh. I don't think he was at fault for that as much as it seems. He was pressed by a lot of men. He didn't have many options, and I actually think he had a great tournament. But with French midfielders and Man United on the agenda, there's talk that Man United are in talks with Camavinga as well, along with potentially Raphael Varane, one that's been talked about for years. But this seems like quite concrete interest. I know you're a sceptical Man United fan who'll go, oh no, he's just trying to get a better contract at Real Madrid. Is that what you're going to say, or do you think that could happen?
No, there's been talk for a few months now that he's been looking for a new challenge. And there's been a lot in the press, in the Madrid press, that he's actually turned down the deal from Real Madrid. So, maybe it's not all looking for a new contract, a la Ramos a few years ago.
Yeah. Every time.
For it, yeah. I feel like, he'd be a great signing for them. You're speaking about Camavinga there as well. He's a huge talent, probably the biggest talent in French football. But again, it's you don't trust anything in the media these days. It's just,
Well, that's two big transfer windows, really, for two clubs with big transfer windows. If you're talking about the players that PSG have brought in, and if Man United could get those two deals done along with Jadon Sancho, we don't know what Man City are going to be doing. There's talk of them being in for Harry Kane still, Erling Haaland. Mentions of Grealish, but I can't see that personally. The other transfer deal that I want to talk about quickly, and this is me being completely biased, is there is talks that Villa are going to put in a third bid for Emile Smith-Rowe and are confident that Arsenal will actually consider this one, and Smith-Rowe's representatives have already agreed to a deal. What do you think that says? I mean, for me as a Villa fan, obviously I've got a lot to say on that. So as you as a neutral, what do you think that says about the intent of Aston Villa this season if they're going to Arsenal and saying, we'll have one of your best young players?
I think it definitely kind of sets a marker. I feel as though, you know, Aston Villa are definitely looking for place in that top 6. You know, it might be a step too far this season, but I mean, if they could get around that, you know, in one of those places, that'd be brilliant. And the thing is, they are evidently looking for some younger players, younger talent as well.
Yeah.
I feel as though it says a lot more about Arsenal than it does Aston Villa if they're willing to sell him.
I don't think they are willing, but 35 million might be quite a lot of money to them in this window if they're looking to rebuild. They had it with Martinez too, right? They didn't necessarily want to sell him, but when Villa came with the money, they thought they had enough in their squad to cover it and they could spend that money elsewhere. So maybe Smith-Rowe is not as valuable to Arsenal as we think.
They decided to sell a better goalkeeper to Aston Villa than he had. You know, it just boggles the mind. And you know, it's the same thing with Arsenal. They've brought in, I think, Tavares from Benfica. Apparently, there's rumours of him, and he's just not very good. And then you've got obviously them. You know, we only have to say Pepe, don't we? Really, Nicolas Pepe. They're signing him for 72 million. If that's where they're going to go and spend their money, you know, nobody's going to be worried about Arsenal this season at all.
Well, they've currently let Guendouzi go to Marseille. There's talk of William Saliba going on loan there too.
They've not even given Saliba a chance.
Bizarre.
Sent him alone, and you know they signed a pretty decent sum of money.
He looks quality as well. Odegaard's gone back to Real Madrid now. It looks like they've missed out on Matt Ryan. He's going to Real Sociedad. They also look like they might miss out on Ben White now. I've seen a couple of clubs being linked, Everton and Chelsea, both looking to swoop in. And so could be a difficult summer for Arsenal again. So we'll see how that one goes. But for now, let's focus on the here and now and focus on the fact that we think it might be coming home. Well, it's definitely coming to Wembley on Wednesday. So we'll talk again after England's semi-final win, or we'll cry after their loss. Either way, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today, Dave. Just to remind people that we are on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the Football Diary UK. You can also join our Discord server to be part of our conversation. The link is there. So thank you, everyone, for watching. And thank you, Dave, for enjoying England's tournament with me so far.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. See you soon.
See you later, bud.
Yeah.
Bye.